Always get something going on. Well, this morning, I decided we're going to have a worship service. What do you mean, preacher? I want to hear an amen from somebody.
Amen.
I'm not going to preach, per se. You know, you don't realize how hard it is, week after week. And granted, I only do one sermon a week. Some preachers are doing 3. But I'm usually writing 2. And I wanted to do something different this morning. Today, we're celebrating a luncheon of love. Valentine's was Friday. You know, and so all the secular stuff is done. And I wanted us to focus this morning on the love that God gives us. Sometimes we ignore it. Unintentionally, but I think we ignore it because we're so busy in our life doing other things. And we don't stop. And I was watching the news this week, and you know, we think we got snow. We have nothing compared to what they've got in Pennsylvania and north of there. And those people are without power for days, and some of them now almost 2 weeks. And you watch them in a tragedy. I know you've seen this, whether it's a hurricane, a flood, a snowstorm, whatever, a car wreck. Oh God, Jesus, help me. You hear those types of words. And when I hear those, I wonder, you know, first I know this. People are not ignorant of who God is. There are very few ignorant people in the world today. We have such mass media communication that what I say, if I had a TV camera here, we could air it all over the world right now. And people around the world would hear what I'm saying, just like we watch TV programs or other things. But the Beatles did a song in 1967. All you need is love. Dun, 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 dun. All you need is love. Love is all you'll ever need. Now, John Lennon, I don't know that John was a Christian, but he wrote some good songs like that. Love is all you ever need. I hope he got the connection between love and God is love, and how the love of Christ died for us. Webster defines spiritual definition. He says love is unselfish loyalty, benevolent concern for the good of another, the fatherly concern of God for humankind, brotherly concern for others, a person's adoration of God, a God of personification of love. God is love. The Bible in 3 words is God is love. In 2 words, Jesus saves, or Jesus lives, either one. And in 1 word, describe the Bible, love. All throughout that book that we read week after week, sometimes night after night, God talks about His love for us. In whatever manner you describe it, 329 times He mentions love in the Bible. Now, before I get into the actual portion of the lesson here, the teaching, I'm not going to preach today in a way. I'm going to teach. I want everybody to make sure they got a hymnal in their hand. Grab you a hymnal. Love for Christians. Understand this basic principle, folks. Love is not about money. Never has been in God's eyes, and it never will be. And yet we as a society, as humans, we think that if we have love, here's what Paul writes in 1 Timothy about it. He says, "For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil, for which some have strayed from the faith in their greediness and pierced themselves through many sorrows." Some have strayed from the faith because of money, because of their greed. The biggest word in the dictionary, greed. That is the word right there that is running this country into the ground, running churches into the ground, all across America. I'm not talking off my ear. Get on any news station, get on the internet, and just look and see what's going on in the world. The world has forgot about love. Who knows what agape love is? Paul calls it agape, A-G-A-P. Agape in the Greek means unconditional love. That means I love each of you. Whether you love me back or not, your own problem. But I love each of you. There's no conditions, there's no strings, nothing attached. Somebody comes up to you and says, you know, I love you. Whether, you know, especially children, sometimes they do it because they want something. My youngest daughter used to say, Daddy, I love you. Daddy, you look good in that. Oh, the charm was going on. The con, she wants something out of me. Different kind of love. God, Paul says, gives us agape love. Christ gave us the agape love. When Christ died on the cross, there was no condition. Okay? We know that Christ is the way to the Father, the only way. But He doesn't force you and me to take that way. And He never will. Never leave your house in the morning or go to bed at night without saying these three simple words, I love you, to whoever you're dealing with. Never lay your head down on the pillow. I can say that Wanda and I do that. Even though we get frustrated sometimes with each other, we may not always agree on things, we always say, I love you. We wake up in the morning and say, I love you. I watched a woman the other day on TV. It's been about 14, 15 days ago. She lost a loved one. And she was crying because she thought, you know, I don't even remember what I said to them when they left the house. The last time I see them. It ought to be, I love you. Jesus says, I love you. Thank Christ daily for the presence of His love in your home. Okay? In your church. In the job that you do. And generally in your life. Do you know that there are 21 songs in that hymn book you're holding that have the title with the word love in it? I'm only going to work on 7 because that's all I know. Out of the 21 songs that deal with love, okay, there are 428 songs in your hymnal. I know because I counted. That means 5% of the book deals with love in the title. Now that doesn't mean that other songs don't talk about love, but the songs are specifically written about either the love of God or the love of Christ. The first one I'd like you to do is I'd like you to turn to hymn number 323. We're going to look at the biblical love. You're expected to sing with me. Psalm 89:1, God reveals Himself to you. He's going to have His story told in no matter who does it. Whether you do it or I do it, or whether or not our enemies do it. God says, my word will not come back to me void. Never. So whether you and I want to speak up, curses become blessings. Then Balaam said to Balak, stand by your burnt offering and I will go. Perhaps the Lord, he's talking about God, will come to meet me, and whatever He shows me, I will tell you. Now here's a pagan priest talking to a pagan king. And yet he's talking about God. See, evil people or misguided people are not ignorant of who God is. And they're not ignorant of God's power. They just don't want to admit it and follow it. The king of Moab, Balak, became fearful after the Israelites defeated the Amorites. So he attempted to hire a soothsayer, which is a priest. You might call him a witch today or something like that, a magician. He says as Balaam was to pronounce a curse on Israel, Numbers chapter 22. Balak escorted Balaam to 3 different mountains and offered 3 different sacrifices, only to have Balaam each time deliver a blessing to the Israelites. All 3 times they tried to bring Israel down, God blessed the nation. Look around the country today when people are trying to bring America down, when people are trying to bring the Church of America down, God will bless those who are faithful. May not bless this church, may not bless that church, may not bless another church, but then He might. Depends on our faith. Never hold back what God gives to you. David says this in Psalms 51. This is what I've got on my website. O Lord, open my lips, and my mouth shall bring forth your praise. Just open my mouth, Lord, and I will praise you. In Psalm 89:1, he says, I will sing the mercies of the Lord forever. With my mouth I will make known your faithfulness to all generations. David says, I'm going to let all my children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, if I see them, know who you are. The Lord's not being passed down from family generation to generation much anymore. To tell the